Welcome everyone to Gems from the Wisdom Traditions, a conversation circle that's sponsored by Still and Moving Center. And on today, we are celebrating mothers. And we're, as Elizabeth mentioned, celebrating the Great Mother Earth, with the theme of children of Mother Earth. Today, we're very fortunate to have with us someone who has given so much of her time and attention to how to sustain this beautiful mother of ours, Krista Heiser. She is the Senior Advisor for Sustainability Education for an organization that I am going to let you tell us about, Krista, a little bit. And we've decided that we're going to do this sort of as an interview. I'll ask her a few questions. If we go less than kind of that normal 20 minutes, then I'll ask any of you who'd like to ask her kind of an interview question to do so. And I wanted to start by asking you, Krista, to tell us how it is that you're relating to Mother Earth through the current job that you have. And congratulations on having this new job. It's quite an honor, I understand, and it's internationally based.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Renee. And thank you for inviting me here today to this wonderful talk. I am Senior Advisor for Sustainability Education for the Global Council for Science and the Environment. And to do this work, I've taken a leave of absence. I'm a professor at Kapiolani Community College, and for a time served as the Sustainability Curriculum Coordinator for UH System. I also, of course, teach NIA, and somehow this is all related. So Global Council for Science and the Environment has the mission, it's a nonprofit based in Washington, D.C., and it has the mission since 1992 to bring together scientific research and public policy, so that we can make better policy decisions to care for the earth. So that's my current work.
And is there something specifically that you feel as if you do that that demonstrates your relationship as a child of Mother Earth in that job?
That is a very interesting question. Some aspects of the job involve travel, which does not feel supportive of the earth. Of course, every time I fly or travel, I sense the top of our atmosphere, and I sense the beautiful globe that we are in, filling with heat, trapped inside of our atmosphere and its fragility. The GCSE work is very administrative. We're actually working on an accreditation for sustainability degree programs. So, it's not direct service. It's not planting trees. It's not outdoor work. It's not conservation work per se. It's policy work. So there's that. The GCSE logo is an orb, the Earth orb, with these kind of dots and connectors on it. So what we do is we try to connect higher education and research and federal agencies, so the USDA and the EPA and all of this. So, Gaianism, what we're going to talk about today is not something I talk about at GCSE. Gaianism is a personal practice of mine that I bring in, my being and the way it's more like my personal religion practice. And so that's what I would say about that. One thing that we do at GCSE that is very interesting and maybe pertinent to this is that at every meeting, we have an anti-racist organization oath. And the organization really is working with how to integrate climate justice and environmental justice into conservation policies and so forth. So that's what comes to mind, but I don't talk about Gaianism at work. Not yet, anyway.
Not yet. I wonder if you could share with everyone the story that you shared with me of some years back when you had something of an epiphany of your place, your role here on Earth. Could you share that for the rest of us?
Yeah, it's part of the story, and I wanted to share. Oh, you want to know that story? I know what you're asking me. Okay, well, I'm going to tell you this story because I brought this up and then I'll work backwards. Okay, how's that? This is the story that brought me to Gaianism. This is a photo of me in my office on Earth Day 2019. And these are the Sustainable Development Goals behind me. And you'll notice that I am wearing funereal black. And this is because I had a moment of protest, resistance against the institution and the 15th Sustainability Committee planning meeting for Earth Day that I was being put, in charge of organizing again. And I said, I am tired of Earth Day. We should have Shadow Earth Day. And we should really look at the suffering and we need to really connect to the emotion and the suffering of our Mother Earth. And what are we celebrating here on Earth Day? And I said, I will have nothing to do with it. I will wear black for the entire month of April. And I did. I wore this funereal black to campus every day. One colleague joined me. A few people wore black armbands. And we talked about what is now actually a really big topic of conversation. Climate anxiety, eco-emotions, solastalgia, all of these things are coming out as sadness and anxiety around the planetary predicament of climate change and biodiversity loss and so forth, pollution. It's coming out in the emotional body. And it's the connection that has always been there between humans and Earth. Humans are part of the Earth. We are in the Earth. We are not stewards of the Earth, somehow above it, but we are inside the system. The Earth system, which is called the Gaian system, which we can talk about more later, includes humans. It transcends human and it includes human. So we are situated inside the Earth. We are literally children of the Earth. I'll come back to the story that Renee asked me to share. But so we had this Shadow Earth month, and of course, then COVID happened. And so we didn't do it again, but pardon my scrolling. But I want to bring you to this list that I wrote. So somebody asked the question, well, what is the difference between being green and being Gaian, right? What is the difference between conservation, recycling, all of these things, which are good, environmentalism, and the Gaian way? So I spent a year having conversations with my fellow Gaians. It is an organization, and I'll tell you kind of what it does and where it came from. Having a conversation about that difference. And so you see on this list, some of these are my ideas or other Gaians, but what it really comes to is what I sense to be lacking in environmentalism as we have known it is the connection to spirit and the connection to the emotional spirit of Mother Earth. So Gaianism, I'm going to take this down now. This essay is has become kind of a foundation essay for Gaianism, and you can read it on the Gaianism website, which I'll share with you before we leave today. What is green and what is Gaian, it's called. And I'll just pause there for a breath, and I will come back to the other story, Renee. That's also a good one.
Yes, I was really touched to hear the story, though, that you had, where it was kind of, it felt like a parting of the clouds, and there was a clarity for you. And that doesn't happen every day for everyone. And so if it's something that you feel as if you could share, I think it would enrich the rest of us.
Well, in around 2002, I had moved to Hawaii in 2001. So I lived in Manoa Valley for about a year. I had no knowledge of climate change. I was not an environmentalist. I was a writing teacher and sort of a community literacy activist in San Francisco. I literally was taught nothing about environmentalism, the earth, Gaia theory. I knew none of these things. And I was out for a walk one day in my neighborhood, and there was kind of a light sprinkling of rain. And I crossed this little footbridge that is no longer there in the back of Manoa. We lost it in those floods, the 30 days and 30 nights of flooding. But I was crossing over this little footbridge, and I paused, and the stream was kind of running underneath, and the rain was kind of lightly falling, and the wind. And I was suffused with a sudden knowing and a just deep understanding of the sadness of the earth, the predicament that we're in, and the words that came to me that I experienced as a direct communication from spirit, from Mother Earth, from somewhere, was something is happening and everything must change. I had no idea what that meant. I literally ran home and dedicated the rest of my career to doing everything I could to create transformative learning processes so that I could learn from the epiphany that had just happened to me. It's called an epochal transformative moment. And it's where you're just like, you just have a sudden knowing, you know something, and it can never be unknown. And you're completely changed. I was completely changed by this moment and this process. And I probably think about that almost every day, especially when I see the rainbows in Manoa Valley. I think a lot about Halaopuna and the mo'olelo of Manoa Valley and what magic I experienced on that ordinary walk in 2002.
Mm-hmm. I think if I were Mother Earth, I would want an emissary like you. Who had a sense of my suffering, and who loved me deeply, and who had also a very broad view of everyone living here in Mother Earth, in her system. And so I think that very personal connection probably serves you well, and certainly Mother Earth in addition.
There's another story that comes to my mind, which is Eric Asadorian's description of what is Gaianism. And so Eric is one of the smartest people I have ever known. And I hang out with a lot of college professors and scientists and climatologists and a lot of really smart people, and David and Renee. I spend most of my time hanging out with smart people, and Eric Asadorian is like up there. For more than a decade, Eric worked at a think tank in Washington, D.C., and he wrote a report called the World Watch State of the World Report. So he came to a lot of the same epiphany that I did, but he came to it through statistics and measurement, and every year writing this report that would ask, is sustainability even possible? Just through the mathematics of the human population and the biosphere. And when he couldn't handle writing that report anymore for the World Watch Institute, Eric left World Watch and decided that what the world needed was Gaianism. So Gaianism was designed as, I've heard Eric call it a secular religion. I've also heard him call it secular philosophy, but it is the spiritual practices that support the scientific theory of Gaia theory. So Eric, who was a religion major in college, kind of went back, not as a guru or anything like that, but as just a person. And he put together the components of this secular religion, which was designed to bring together Christians and Buddhists and Jewish people and Muslims, and like any religious faith could live under the umbrella of Gaianism, and that the faith be dedicated to the healing of Mother Earth. So Eric describes life and death like this. He said, okay, picture a waterfall. Picture the most beautiful waterfall that you've ever seen. And of course, we're so lucky. We see waterfalls often. And you know how the water is kind of rushing down like this, and then these little droplets kind of fly off the waterfall and fall as a droplet of water. And Eric said, we're those little droplets of water. We fly out of the waterfall and we fall, and this is our life. And when we come to the stream below, we rejoin the stream, we rejoin the earth system, and this is our life. And he said the best thing we can do as we're falling in this waterfall, the best thing we can do is to serve Gaia, to dedicate our lifespan to the healing of the earth. Mm-hmm. And that to me was like, I think I'm a Gaian. So I'll tell you another story about how Gaianism and Still and Moving Center are related, but I'll pause here and see if you have any questions.
I think you have us on the edge of our seat, Krista. Maybe you ought to tell that one first, and then we'll open it up. How about that?
Okay, great, because it's a really great story. So right before the pandemic, Still and Moving Center hosted a gathering of the eco-sattvas. So I didn't yet know about Gaianism. I had just done the Shadow Earth Month wearing of black and been through a very deep bout of, climate grief myself. I might say I was freaking out to some degree. And there's something called the One Earth Sangha, which is a Buddhist organization that is dedicated to Gaia, that connects the path of the Bodhisattva to the actions of a climate activist, and that's what an eco-sattva is. So One Earth Sangha, which you can also explore, offered this 8-week sort of series, and you could form a group. We registered as a Hawaii Eco-Sattva study group, and we met at Still and Moving Center. So Renée offered us this space. Maybe there was a donation, but it wasn't a class, it was a gathering, it was free. And I hosted the space, we watched videos and had discussion, and then we sat in meditative practice. And all of these things, learning, having practiced civil conversation with others, and learning to sit with difficult emotions and just sit still and slow down and hold emotions. These are resilience practices that really help all of us to be with and to meet the challenges of the climate crisis. So in the group, it was literally 50% Buddhists from like the, Buddhist community who go to temples and, are Buddhists. And I, of course, love Buddhism, and I meditate, and I love mala necklaces and all the symbols, but I've never actually seen myself as a practicing Buddhist. But it was 50% Buddhists who wanted to know more about climate activism and how they could dedicate their practices to climate action. And the other 50% were climate activists, some of them rather radical, who wanted to know more about the practices of Buddhism. So Gaianism came out of this eco-sattva group, which sort of married climate action and Buddhism. And then I had actually met Eric before, but then Eric started Gaianism. I heard his story about the waterfall, and I said, I think I'm a Gaian. And we actually have a group on the Gaianism website called the Gaian Guild of Hawaii. Gaianism is organized in small community-sized guilds, and is meant to be just a friendly group to meditate together in nature and have discussions and intellectual inquiry and learning about the Gaian system.
Wow. So it's a brand new religion.
Yeah, it really is. It's not a new theory, and maybe we can transition to talk about Gaia theory, but I just think it's so perfect that Eric, who studied everything there was to study, and like of all the things he could have done with all the knowledge he has about sustainability and the earth system and politics and policy, what is the single best thing he could do next is to create a religion and help people connect to each other, connect to themselves, and reconnect to the earth as mother.
Amazing. Oh, thank you so much, Krista. Well, let's throw it out open for our conversation. We have someone with us, Elizabeth Saturas, who has actually published a book called Gaia, which she's republished later under a different name. So we have her with us, and a number of other people who certainly have given a lot of thought and concern to how do we care for this earth of ours. So we'd love to hear any comments, any questions that you have. And certainly you can ask Krista a question, or you can just throw it out for anybody to catch.
Hi, Miss Krista. It's so nice to see you outside of the whirlwind of Nia that has been mentorship the last few months. I kind of notice a similar passion with you in your relation to Gaianism through science, but the blend and immersion of ethereal belief. It's almost the same way that I approach my kind of scientific background, where there's so much unsaid that I had to go to find my answers outside of the science of it. So I'm just really appreciative of another strong female having the passion to pursue a reach bigger than oneself. So much gratitude to you for bringing this topic to us today.
Thanks, Carol Ann. Yeah, your comment really is about this. There's this long split between science and religion. right? I have read a ton of Ken Wilber, and like I love Ken Wilber as a philosopher. And, you know, Ken Wilber tried to bring together science and religion. And I think Gaianism does that in a way where like they complement. And if this split between science and religion could be healed, or science and spirituality, science and indigeneity, you know, science is good. Like there's a lot of great things in science, and Gaianism embraces science and looks at science through the lens of the Gaia theory, which we don't think is a theory, but is our relationship to the earth.
I'm the lowest in the pool of the ignorant on the environment, but what about the ocean? Can the ocean regenerate itself, or how does it fit into Gaianism? I've always been very attached to the ocean and love being immersed in it. And I hear about the pollution with the plastic water bottles and all. But can you tell us what you've learned about the ocean in the task of environmental protection and the attraction of, you might say, even spiritual forces into the ocean?
That's an amazing question, especially with all that ocean behind you. I don't want to put Elizabeth on the spot, but I wonder in like Gaia theory, how the ocean, I mean, I know a lot about the ocean and problems in the ocean, but I'm not sure I have that connection through Gaia theory. Do you want to take that question, Elizabeth? If not, I will, but I think you might be better.
I will try. Krista, thank you so much, first of all. You really got me with your, what was it, Shadow Earth Day picture. I'm currently reading Jim Bendel's brand new book, slogging through it as best I can. And of course, the first thing that when you, Carolyn, said ocean, the first thing that came to mind was something in that book where he points out that the Mariana Trench, one of the deepest parts of the ocean at the very bottom, has 50 times the toxic waste molecules in it of anything on the surface, which just goes to show you how, you know, the Gaian currents and life forms and things that are eating the surface molecules and bodies dropping to the bottom, just how very, very pervasive our damage is at this point. Here in Hawaii, I think we're doing enormously good things about the ocean, more than I know of in many other places. We had the largest protected zone for a long time, and then when somebody finally beat us, we expanded ours. And we have a ship 100 miles north of us here on Oahu, you know, measuring what's going on. And we banned sunscreens that were damaging the corals. And, you know, if you add up all the things that we're doing for the ocean, it's almost more than we're doing for the food supply, which I think is a more imminent danger right now as things fall apart. But there were so many things you said, Krista, that I really loved. Eco-sattva is a wonderful concept. And I've been studying climate change for over 40 years. I started with Jim Lovelock, who of course gave us the name Gaia. And I sent him my very first copy of my book while I was living on a Greek island where I'd gone because science was no longer answering my big questions. And I decided I would go write novels on a Greek island. And I was on a very small one there, but I got such lovely responses from Jim, and he actually came to visit me on my island. And just recently, a friend sent me the letter that I wrote back to her in the 1980s after Jim's visit. And it was so wonderful. I'm going to quote it I'm just finishing up my last book in this life. I'm 87. Krista, I would love to talk lots more to you because I don't want to hog too much time. I was trying to hold on to myself here and give other people a chance. But, you know, talking about, no, we're not stewards of the earth. We're in service to it if we have any sense at all. And that's what all of the indigenous cultures taught us, that everything is our brothers and sisters and uncles and aunts and parents, and we're the little brother, the latecomer who needs to sit and learn. I had a wonderful experience long ago on my first trip into the Amazon. I think I've said this here before, but I have to tell Krista, where I was still naive enough to ask this beautiful long-haired Indian I was in the jungle with, can you teach me to talk with the plants and animals? And he looked at me and he said, oh, shut up, Elizabeth, and listen. That conversation's been going on as long as the forest has been here, and your job isn't to initiate it, it's to hear it before you engage in it with us. And I took that very seriously. Many lessons of that kind in my life. Let's see, your epiphany, something is happening, everything must change, is so true. And I've become a deep adaptation person, frankly. We've done so much damage to the ocean, Carolyn, that I don't know if we can do anything at this point, except to stop doing what we've been doing. But the damages done are so severe that Mother Earth will have to take care of that, you know, after we've been severely culled, or, you know, our big industrial era has ended. You know, we saw during COVID that just a few days of locking up the humans cleared our atmosphere, and, you know, showed that she can move pretty quickly when we're not causing more trouble. So basically we have to stop causing the trouble we're causing. We have to work with each other on sustainable local community and do the global teaching while we have tools like this one, so that we make more and more people aware of just how bad the thing that's happening is, without having people lose hope. And probably the best way I've learned in this lifetime to speak truth to power, Krista, is to take all my economics and all my politics right from nature, right from my own body, including the ethics of our bodies, which Darwin just did not notice, and show people they cannot refute you when you do this, you see, and you don't really get into trouble. And people go, aha, when you're pointing out that your body has a very ethical economy and economics and politics. So that's kind of what I do. I try to help young people to do that, and to simplify things as much as possible so that you have good stories to tell, and to keep people's hope up by showing that you have to, you know, intend for you, your family, your friends to get through the bottleneck. There is going to be a bottleneck. There will be much fewer of us, and it will not be pretty, you know, as we have to go through it. But that's where the hope is. That's where humanity can keep going, thrive, and gets a chance to do it again the right way.
Elizabeth, thank you so much. That was amazing. And I can't wait to have a coffee with you at Pelikai or something, whatever you want. Like, I'll be there. Like, let's get together for sure. I just took a course with Jem Bendell, and I just want to say one thing about Jem Bendell, which is that he is like his field of expertise is like politics and leadership and organizational theory and leadership. And he is the kindest, most loving, wonderful person. Like, he is a great person, and he talks about leadership. He's not like another person who wrote a book talking about we should do this or we should do that. Like, he talks about, non-doing. He talks about like decentering leadership. He's not an environmental leader. He's not Bill McKibben. He's very much in a step back and work together, and like we all lead, like co-leadership. So yeah, I was really impressed with him. If you don't know Jem Bendel and Deep Adaptation, there's a Facebook group on deep adaptation. But Jem wrote a paper called Deep Adaptation. And basically, Jem was a college professor who went on sabbatical and learned all he could about climate change, and came to the conclusion that near-term social collapse is at least something that we should talk about, because it is at least in the realm of possibility. And there are very specific mechanisms that suppress this conversation, like truly. And all he said is we should talk about it. And scholarly journals refused to publish his paper. They said people will panic if you publish this paper. And so he self-published it, and it's been downloaded like 3 million times. He started the Deep Adaptation Forum, which you probably have top of your mind, but it's all about connect, renew, healing, conversation. Like, the answers are in conversations like this one. They're in learning, and they are, in my view, they are in our spiritual practices and our movement practices. They're being in the body. The body is the earth, and vice versa. So yeah, I'm thrilled that you mentioned Jem's book. So I'd love to talk more about that.
Yeah, I want to just add that Jem comes with the highest qualifications because Satish Kumar is a very old friend of mine too. and the fact that Schumacher College published the book is a very good recommendation. The one thing that I kept getting stuck on is I wish he weren't calling it eco-libertarianism, because libertarianism has always felt elite to me. and I don't know why the emphasis on freedom above all, without talking about, well, he goes into it somewhat, and I haven't read nearly that, even half the whole book yet. I've been jumping around in different chapters, but the freedom comes with responsibility. It's this he does say freedom too on occasion, and that's a big thing with me, that when the big brain exploded in evolution, we got freedom of choice, and that freedom came with huge responsibility. And that's a part we don't like to talk about, especially in America, where the national credo is kind of don't fence me in. So we have this freedom is license, freedom is don't tell me what to do, freedom is, all of those things. So I'd like to talk to him about this, and
You can. He's very approachable.
Good. I should, because I know all those guys. I used to teach occasionally at Schumacher when I was living in Europe, by the way.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I'd love to just kind of hop back to Gaianism for a minute and talk about the kind of pragmatics of it. What Eric Asadorian, who is the one who created Gaianism, he bases Gaianism, and there's a set of practices. It's like things you can do to build an identity and a community that is compatible with Gaia theory and with all of these ideas. And so some of the Gaian practices, and some of them Eric has made up. Those are probably my favorites. Some of them came from like neo-pagan traditions. Gaians in general follow the wheel of the year. And so like at Still and Moving Center, I do an ecstatic dance once a month, and I try to tie that to the wheel of the year and learn about things like Beltane and what my own indigenous ancestors in, in Europe would have, how they would have celebrated their connection to Mother Earth, and how that connection was, brutally severed in my ancestral path. Like, where does that separation come from? So we practice the Wheel of the Year. Another Gaian practice is meditating at the morning and the solar, noon, and sunset, sunrise, solar, noon, and sunset. So Eric has on the website, there are meditations for these 3 points in the day, kind of honoring the sun. And, that could be something like taking a breath at sunrise, or it could be a 30-minute meditative practice at solar noon. A new-ish Gaian practice honors the moon, and that is fasting related to the moon. So on the new moon and the full moon, it is a Gaian practice to reduce caloric impact for maybe one meal or maybe a 24-hour period. This is a way of honoring the moon and sort of helping us notice the moon, like, whoa, it's here again. Oh, it's the new moon again. And for me, I started doing this practice after doing a 3-day solo fast, wilderness vision fast. And I started doing the Gaian practice, and I found that I really liked it because it showed me that it helped me deal with fear. Like, I think about, like, oh my God, what if we have a drought and the wheat doesn't grow and there's crop failures and we don't get any food in Hawaii? And like, that's something I can kind of spin out with in my head. Mm-hmm. So for me, the Gaian practice of fasting, and, we begin it with a meditation, like, why am I fasting? And for me, it helps me deal with fear. And it helps me say, you know what? I'm okay right now. And you know what? I can do hard things. So it helps me build resilience. And fasting 2 days out of a month reduces one's caloric impact on the earth by 7%. So Gaian practices are kind of like that. Those are just a few things. And there's also a book club to engage in continual learning, continual education like this. And the Gaian Guild used to monthly meet and meditate. If there were interest from this group, or maybe the Gaian Guild wants to merge into this group and come back to Still and Moving Center, I don't know, but it is there and was a beautiful practice that many of us maintained for a long time. It's a little dormant as a gathering, but we are a Gaian Guild.
I just wanted to hear some other perspectives on this idea of Earth as Mother, other people's experience of that, or their traditions view on that. Yeah, just let's round this out a little bit. David?
Sure, happy to. I always like taking left-hand turns. So in the field of psychology, just within the last handful of years, the model of biopsychosocial was expanded to biopsychosocial spiritual. So there's this awareness that's growing in probably all communities of the nature of spirituality and how it plays, how it really is. So we're kind of coming back to out of the dark age of the scientific theory. And when you said that you don't think that that Gaianism is a theory, it reminded me that science itself is a theory. And I stumbled upon a quote by Einstein on a TV show the other night that stopped me dead in my tracks. And I had to rewind and take screenshots so that I could get this quote. And the quote is, so far as the theories of mathematics are about reality, they are not certain. So far as they are certain, they're not about reality. I'm still unpacking that. I'm still digesting it, like all good Einstein quotes should be. But I think that it relates to this idea that things that we think are certain. McKenna used to say, it should just sound true enough. And I think this is where the whole sounds true thing came from, because our best theories and our best understanding probably pale in comparison to reality itself. So this is where spirituality needs to be brought back in, because it kind of opens the doorway. And the rise of fungus now. In fact, Renee gave me a tea blend recently that was it's a mushroom tea, right? And so there's all these products entering the marketplace, because the whole idea of fungus being its own domain is a fairly new idea. And I think this is Gaia infusing us as a not stewards, but as a part of waking us up to the value of and the necessity of connection, which is what fungus, at least half the fungus kingdom, are all about, making those connections. And then we see within the field of psychology, also now they're returning to the use of psilocybin. And one thing that we know about psilocybin from all the research is people who have experienced psilocybin get very much in touch with that they are a part of nature. So significant. This is not at all coincidental. This is all Gaia speaking to us. I just got chicken skin. So I think that's all I have to share, but thank you.
Thank you, David. Krista?
I just wanted to address your question while I'm thinking about what David said, and bring in ecofeminism, because you asked, Earth as mother, and the way we treat women is the way we treat the earth. And so, it's all related to the subjugation of women. And so, like Mother's Day, honoring women is, congruent with honoring the earth, and recovering from patriarchy is congruent with Gaianism. So yeah, the way we treat women is the way we treat the earth. That's basically what ecofeminism is about. So if the earth is our mother, how do we treat our mother? And that's all connected too. But David, your thoughts are, yeah, that's very interesting.
Well, I have one thing, although it's very inspired by everything that's been said, which I very much agree with. Robert Aiken wrote a book called The Mind of Clover. It's a book on Buddhist ethics. And he starts by saying, why did the Buddha, after his enlightenment, go into the world and start teaching? What motivated him? And he basically says that essentially enlightenment or understanding has two sides. Prajna, understanding, and part of that understanding is that everything is connected. And the other aspect is compassion, that we feel that connection as part of our Sangha. And so, to me, it's interesting that kind of has that mind and aspect of no mind. The mind of clover is that when clover is cut, it naturally gives nitrogen into the ground. And when the Buddha was enlightened, he naturally went forth and taught. There was no personal side to it. It just was the natural way of flowing in the world. And as everyone was speaking, I was hearing that being said many, many times, that kind of, there's a natural way of being. Part of it is understanding, part of it is feeling compassion. And they go together. And I think that probably has both a male and female aspect. But it's something that relates to nurturing.
Donna Moore is one of the earliest environmentalists in my personal exposure, and I see that she's here with us. I'm not sure if you can have the opportunity to speak, Donna. I'd sure love to hear your thoughts.
Well, I appreciate what everyone's been saying. It's sparked a lot of questions. And it just as David was talking about, brought up the term uncertainty. I was halfway through a question about, in my mind, about uncertainty. And so I was connecting that. Actually, I'm laying here and I can see the symbol of still and moving center, and trying to understand how we can live and deal with uncertainty in our lives. It speaks to the idea that was just brought up about fear. In fact, it seems it's really strongly related to fear and negativity. So I was wondering, someone else mentioned cycles and the symbol. I suspect in that symbol of the still and moving center, there's an answer to this question. It's very profound, but just if people had thoughts on, do cycles help us to deal with change as a fundamental principle of life? In other words, certainty and uncertainty having to do with finding some place where we can gain some sense of reality.
Thank you, Donna. That was awesome. I've been thinking a lot that nervous system regulation has a lot to do with everything. And this idea that uncertainty leads to fear, which deregulates the nervous system and causes us to think from the limbic system rather than from the prefrontal cortex, where we can think about consequences. And when we're in fear and we're in fight or flight, we're not really making a whole lot of sense. There isn't a lot of connection to anything except our own safety and security. So when we can deal with uncertainty, and this is where the mindfulness practice and the prevalence of Buddhism and other practices becoming so popular in the West, where we need it the most, is it's helping us to regulate our nervous systems so we can calm down and think our way through this. Because I believe that we can solve this problem, but we got to calm down, I think.
A helpful connection. Thank you.
And if we do, will that help calm down Mother Earth's nervous system?
So many indigenous traditions, all creation myths eventually lead back to the creation of Mother Earth. I wonder if anybody had any good stories or myths or thoughts about Sky Woman or any of the traditional indigenous myths that would be useful.
Given that we're at 3:57, it will have to, of course, be a very brief little story. Carol Ann, why don't you share with us? And I'm going to also ask Mary and Carolyn if they have anything that they'd like to share with us.
And this may not even be in the sphere, literally, of the right question, but wasn't the Greek god Atlas the one that held up the earth? And isn't Gaia Greek for earth? So a male figure is holding up the female form.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I believe that Atlas, the god in Greek mythology, lived at the end of the earth, Gaia, which was found to be at the end of the African plains based on Wikipedia. And he held up the earth and was in turn to do that for eternity.
Well, that's certainly something to think about. I don't think any of us know. That's fascinating. Mary?
Krista, I really don't know much about Gaia and that kind of stuff. I do know that Hawaiian mythology is that Sky Father Wakea joined with Earth Mother Papa to create the islands. So that's about the extent of my mythology, Hawaiian mythology understanding. Amen.
I would, I'll definitely keep it short, but I think, Mary, you nailed it, that with the rise of feminism, it's about bringing the balance back, because patriarchy has taken us so far out of balance, and that we can't just demonize the masculine principle because it's so necessary. But bringing it back into balance, as your story related, I think is spot on. So thank you for that.
Yeah, that actually helps a question that I had in regard to indigeneity, and how is it that it seems like all of the colonizing forces seem to be anti-Gaia, as opposed to the indigenous cultures that all seem to be in support of Gaia. And so those few little mythological hints, and David, your response are helping me as well. I can tell you while somebody's preparing to give Krista a vote of thanks, I can tell you our topic for next week, although I can't yet confirm our speaker. Still to be affirmed, but somebody's on the way. Our topic is going to be energy custodians. So very, very much in alignment with what we're talking about as children of Mother Earth, energy custodians. And so I really look forward to us being able to have sort of a ongoing conversation, that this will be sort of a springboard to then take up that conversation, all under this year's topic of citizens of the future. Yeah. So may I at this point ask for somebody who would like to give Krista a vote of thanks on behalf of all of us?
Thank you so much, Krista. It was wonderful to meet you. I hope you will let me know your email address or something so that we might get together. It was wonderful just to feel your energy around it. And by the way, the original Gaia myth, in her dance, she wraps Gaia, of course, is a Greek word, and it still is morphed into Yi, which is still the name for Earth in Greek. She wraps Uranos, the sky, the atmosphere around her. And that's where the two work together in harmony and balance. So thank you. Mahalo.
I just want to add my personal thanks to Krista. She and I are long-time Nia sisters. We are both second-degree Nia black belts who have studied this practice for a long time and gained a lot of insight together. And I so appreciate being able to share with you other and deeper, in some ways, aspects of kind of a life study and a life journey. It's wonderful to have you here, Krista. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for holding this group. Thank you so much, everybody. Until we meet again.
Thank you.
Here we go.